He was here.
Front entry door.
Can you hear me, Mr. Livingston?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, thank you.
If everyone could please mute your microphones unless it's time for you to talk, so we don't have all this feedback. Thank you. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is everybody online?
I believe so.
Okay. About this meeting, let me pull my agenda up right quickly. Too many computers. Sarah.
Yes, sir.
Come on. Yes.
I'm not sure who has all the background noise going on, but it's got to stop or we're going to have to disconnect you. Because it's very distracting. So if you can please, everybody, please mute your microphones if there's any background noise, or we'll have to disconnect you.
You know who it is?
I don't.
Sarah, I'm going to mute everybody that I see that's not muted, and then we'll go from there. Give me just a second.
Thank you.
And I'm on the telephone, so watch my mute.
That's okay. I got it. All right, try it now.
Okay. Okay. Good evening for October 11th meeting. Called to order. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Tripp.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mewburn.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
You got everybody got to unmute, I guess.
I really need to see your face, Coach Davis, so I know that you're here. If you can turn your camera on. Commissioner Ross?
Here.
Commissioner Goff?
Here.
Commissioner Langley?
Here.
Okay, thank you.
You can't see my face.
I can't see you. I hear you now, but I can't see you.
I don't know what
Camera's
I got.
not on.
What I got to do to get the camera on.
There should be something that says start video.
Oh, there's you start video. Start. Okay.
There you
There
go.
you go. All right. There you
All right,
go.
we're good. Thank you.
Okay, with that said, want to welcome everybody to our meeting. We'll have public comments, and if you would, we'll let you speak who you are and your address when we get that portion, and we'll move forward from there. At this time, we have invocation. I'd like the Mayor Pro Tem, if he would, do the honors, I would appreciate it.
Let us all bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come into your presence, to oversee the business of our town. We ask that you guide us into a better understanding of our duties, that we may make intelligent decisions and proper decisions for the better good of us all. I ask you to touch our minds, our bodies, our spirit, touch our ears, our eyes, and our hearts to love, trust, and understand each other so that your will be done on this earth as you would have it to be done in heaven. We ask that you heal each and every one of us who needs healing, and then we ask that you heal all of us together as one. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Let us all say amen.
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 The next is the pledge allegiance to the flag. If you would, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
To the
Republic.
The
To the
Republic.
republic,
Which
Stands
nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, any change to the agenda?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem.
Second,
Second,
Davis.
okay, Commissioner Davis. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Tripp? Oh, I'm sorry. Mayor Pro Tem Mewburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Langley?
yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Goff?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, it's public comments. Anyone who would like to speak to the board may do so. I ask you to introduce yourself and give me your address.
I just had one person that emailed me. Of course, anybody else can join in, but Gwen Turnage would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
You're muted, Gwen.
How about that? Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. First of all, my name is Gwen Turnage. I live at 801 2nd Street here in Ayden. Been here for about 29 years. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Livingston and his phenomenal staff. The ditch that's been filled in my yard, we're very pleased with that. You know, so often we hear complaints, and that's all that you guys get are complaints about what you're not doing and just negative things. And I just wanted to say that I am so appreciative of you, Mr. Livingston, and your staff, and Mr. Jawarin, how pleasant they were explaining the whole process to me. The speed bumps, speed humps are doing a great job. They're doing what they were put there to do. Traffic has slowed down tremendously. I will say that after they get across that second speed bump, they're starting to speed up again, and traffic is, you know, we're riding our bikes in the neighborhood along with the kids. It's really heavy. It's more than 25. The cars are doing that. So I'm not sure where we are with the stop signs. If you could give me an update, I'd appreciate that. And also, lastly, I'd just like to throw my name in the hat for the planning board. That's something that I'm interested in. I've been doing planning for over 23 years, and I hope that the board would give me consideration in that bid for that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. And Mr. Manager, you'll give an update where we are?
Yes, sir. We discussed the stop sign, but what we need is a resolution or an ordinance for the board to put a four-way stop there so we can enforce it. So if it's the pleasure of the board to put a four-way stop sign there, which I do think it would help, then I need you to instruct us to do an ordinance for such.
Okay. Since we have to do an ordinance, would it have to be in public, have public comments?
No, it's a police power. Wouldn't have to have public comments. It would just be that we would have to bring back an ordinance that says, whereas we find such and such, and we now feel like a four-way stop would be feasible for this intersection, and basically instruct the staff to put it in and give us the legal ability to enforce the four-way stop.
What intersection are we talking about?
It's at Second and
College.
Northeast College.
Northeast College, correct, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
What do we currently have at that location?
It's a two-way stop.
Two-way.
May I make a comment?
Please, Chris Goff.
I travel that intersection quite frequently to get from my residence to the downtown area of Ayden. So I do experience the things that Ms. Turnage has expressed to us. And I do believe that it would be beneficial to the residents of that town or that section of town that we do a four-way stop. It would not impede traffic flow. It would just slow down, especially those that are coming from Northeast College to East Avenue and toward the railroad tracks. They seem to want to pick up speed once they clear those speed humps that Ms. Turnage was referring. So in my opinion, based on my travel in that area, I think it would be a good recommendation.
I got a question for the town manager. Matt?
Go ahead.
Okay. When we change the streets and put in additional signage, for instance, if we go from a two-way to a four-way stop or all-way stop, are we putting up signs, prior to those signs once they're put in, telling as there's a new stop sign or some kind of warning ahead? Because, when a stop sign goes up and you don't know it's there, people have a tendency just to run through it until they realize it is there. But do we have signs that we can put out prior to the stop sign? Like how far out do we normally put the signs up to say new stop sign ahead or new something ahead?
Well, we do that. There's been times when we've neglected to do that, but that's generally our practice. We put up a sign notifying in advance of that there's a new sign up. And so that's something we would do because it is a good practice.
Okay, thank you. Well, if we need a motion on it, I'll make the motion that we move forward on the, is it a zoning amendment or what would it be considered? An ordinance amendment?
It's just a resolution authorizing us to put in to do a resolution to put in a four-way stop there.
Yeah, I make a motion.
Bring that back to you. Make sure the attorney's okay with it at the next meeting.
So what do we need to say now?
Just basically a resolution to authorize a four-way stop.
So we need
Ordinance,
a motion.
not a-
An ordinance, I'm sorry, and at the proper location, which is Northeast College and Second.
So we just need a motion for that is what we're saying.
Yes.
I make a motion.
No, second. Commissioner Galt.
Okay, okay, go ahead, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Mewburn,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Goff,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Langley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any else public comment?
Mayor, this is Pam Justice with Southern Bank. Our bank address is 236 West 2nd Street. I'm speaking on behalf of the Ayden Chamber, and I have a couple of others who will be behind me in comments. First of all, as the financial chair of the Ayden Chamber and my first year serving on the Collard Festival on the committee as well as a volunteer, I just wanted to comment on the excellent execution and what an awesome group the Collard Festival Committee was to work with. We had a fabulous outcome on Friday night and Saturday. Many thanks to all the volunteers, to the town staff. The public works guys were awesome. They were everywhere. They did a great job. The police were there, had a great time interacting with the crowd. And it was just an honor and a privilege to be a part and to see everybody come together and celebrate and have a wonderful time celebrating the assets of Ayden. On that Friday night, in taking one of my chamber board, actually the executive director, back to his vehicle, he shared with me his intention to resign from the Ayden Chamber. He assured me that he loved his job, that he had a great time, but he had a life-changing opportunity presented to him where he was following his heart to New Mexico and to pursue his love for golf. He will be coaching either at the high school or the college level out in New Mexico. So we wish him the very, very best and appreciate all his efforts, especially I think he spent like 30 hours at the Collard Festival. And I know he didn't speak to the board and the commissioners very often, but his heart was definitely in the right place. He was getting some wonderful things done, but he has left us and has moved on. I do need to confirm if our chairperson, Corey Paluto, are you on?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Corey, I'm going to pass it off to you now for your further comments.
Well, since Jimmy had, you can still hear me, correct? Make sure I'm not muted. Okay. Since Jimmy has left, we've had a meeting prior to his leaving. Stacy Gaskins has graciously decided to step up and has agreed to take over the planning of the Christmas parade, and the board is moving forward diligently to plan and prepare for Christmas Town. We have planned for that date to be December 2nd, and obviously with our previous director stepping down, we have now filled the role with interim director Holly Ayden. At this time, I think we would like for her to introduce herself if possible.
Hello, everyone. I'm Holly Ayden. I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself to you all. I'm really excited about working with the town of Ayden and this new position with the chamber. I have been working in the nonprofit field for a really long time. And most recently, I've been with the Autism Society of North Carolina as their regional director for the last 7 years. So I feel like I have a lot to bring to the table. I feel like there's a lot of good energy in Ayden. We have a great board and people that really want to make some changes. And that's exciting. And I'm really excited to be a part of that change. So just wanted to let you know that I'm coming on board. I'm currently getting to know my role and kind of bringing a little bit of structure and organization to the role. And I recognize that the town council's support is really important to the board and for the chamber. And so what I would like to do is propose maybe a separate meeting or maybe adding this to a future agenda, a time that we could get together and just discuss some goals and expectations for how we can work together moving forward to really support the small businesses in Ayden. And I will let you guys determine, I don't know what would be the best way to do that, whether we would just set up another joint meeting or add this to a future agenda as an item, but would love to work together to set that up. And we'll defer to you on what would be the best way to do that.
Okay. Pam, Corey, any other comments or anyone else?
No, sir,
Okay,
we
that's it from
appreciate the
us.
board's time.
Yep, thank you.
I would like to say welcome, Holly, to the Chamber of Commerce and the Ayden, Town of Ayden. First of all, I want to say thank you to Jimmy for all the hard work he's done with the Chamber. He did put in the right many hours at the College Festival, was a big help, and so did Pam. Also was put a big help in the College Festival. And it was Southern Bank who let us off in our donations or contributions to the College Festival, and I think that was the stimulus for a great fundraiser that we had for the College Festival. I thank Pam and Southern Bank for that. I think Town of Ayden and any board member can comment accordingly, but the Town of Ayden has always been a partner with the Chamber of Commerce. You know, it's both our towns, and we work together to help our business to become better, or help them for economic development or any new business moving forward. So we're excited about that. So Pam, thank you. Corey, we appreciate your leadership, jumping in and getting Holly off the bat, and thanks Jimmy for what he's done. Any board members want any comments?
Hi, this is Gwendy from Gwendy's Goodies. And I just want to say that we are very excited about Holly joining us and really excited to see everything that's happening in downtown Ayden. We appreciate so much the cooperative efforts of the commissioners, and I think Ayden's on its way.
And no doubt, I agree. Thank you, Gwen. Anyone else?
One question, Mr. Mayor, and do we want to add a discussion as a discussion item at the next board meeting? Or would you rather we do a separate work session with them? If they want to bring together their proposal or what their thoughts are and talking about common goals and objectives, would you prefer that just be an item on the next agenda or a separate work session?
So my thought is I think it's a great opportunity to hear each other out and draw the picture or the vision for the town of Ayden moving forward. That way we'd be synchronized with our goals and objectives moving forward, that we'll work better as a team. I prefer that, maybe we come in an hour early for the board meeting. So instead of starting at 7:30, we start at 6:30. Have the work session from 6:30 to come in at 6, come an hour from 6 to 7, and then start the board meeting after that. Do you think an hour will be long enough? Do you think something needs to be longer?
I think an hour would be great.
Okay. And the thing is, if it's not long enough, we can always do it again on another time. So if the board's good with that, we'll try to plan it for our next meeting in November. Is that soon enough for you, Holly?
Yes, that'll be here before we know it. So I think that'll be fine.
Yeah, you're right. The board okay with that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We will need a motion if we're going to start, if we're going to have either start the board meeting at 6 o'clock or call this a workshop or whatever. We still need to do some type of motion to set that in place.
Yeah, that's correct. We need a motion for that.
So let's think about it. Who made a motion?
Langley.
Commissioner Lang makes the motion.
Second.
Who's second?
Commissioner Ross.
Commissioner Ross.
Question.
Okay, before we vote, yeah. Commissioner Davis.
Is this gonna be virtual or in person?
Mr. Manager?
That's kind of up to you guys. I think these kind of work sessions work a little bit better if we can somehow do it in person.
I would love to do it in person if everyone's in agreement with that.
I know I would.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we'll get better interaction, better commerce if we do it in person. And Mr. Manager, would it be better to have our next meeting at Operations Center?
Absolutely. We can space out a little bit more there, and we have some of the technology we need there, they may need. So I think that would work fine, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do we need to have that part of the motion too, Mr. Attorney?
If Commissioner Langley can just agree to amend his motion to state that we'll do it at the Operations Center at 6, I think that works.
Do we,
Commissioner Langley?
yeah, do we have enough room for the public at the Operations Center?
One thing I would recommend is we just do this work session there at the Operations Center, and then we move the meeting to our normal location, or we, from there. That's a typical way of doing things.
Okay, so we do the workshop at the Operations Center, and are we going to go back to, are we going to do virtual, a town board meeting, or are we going to do the courthouse?
Again, that's going to be up to you guys.
Well, let's go ahead and look at that too, so we'll know. But okay, I'll go ahead and amend my motion that we start at the next, prior to the next board meeting, we have a 6 o'clock workshop at the Operations Center.
And Commissioner
Okay.
Ross, second that?
Commissioner Ross?
I will.
Yes. Second.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Newbern,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Langley.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. How about, you get the Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. She did.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. Any other public comments? Okay, with that, none more, we're gonna move on to the presentation by Rich Moore on the update of Highway 102 sewer extension.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm coming across okay?
Yes.
Yeah, you good?
Good. And, what we wanted to do was just kind of, give the board a, full update. This is the project where the town's investing a little over $2 million to extend sewer from existing assets, kind of in the Ayden Country Club area, carrying it over to NC 102, up 102. Primary goal is to provide service for some immediate needs of 2 developers who have subdivisions that are in the works. And we received bids in the end of March of this year, awarded construction in May. And we've had, I guess, 2 issues that primarily, prevented us from going to construction at this point. One of them pandemic related. We met with the contractor last week, who was Carolina Utilities. They indicated that, immediately following award of construction, that they ordered materials, anticipating that there would be a potential problem with delivery. And they confirmed last week that the materials were just delivered last week. So that's about a, 5-month plus delay of shipment of materials. And we are seeing this across the board, in the utility industry. This resulted in some increases in some unit prices, but we feel like we can absorb that into our, into the project as we have it. And the Corps of Engineers has identified wetlands in the areas, and that is certainly going to impact some of the subdivisions with regards to potentially impacting their lot layout or lot availability. And they required that we had to get a concurrence from them to allow construction through them, which we don't think is a problem. It's just a process we got to go through. We do think that we are in a position, and again, we've got one person that's currently with the Corps that issues the permits, but we think that we're going to be within a week of probably getting that permit issued. But through conversations with our contractor, we've come up with a mechanism that we can go ahead and proceed with work activities while we're waiting on, our sewer permit, our Corps of Engineer permit. That'll put him in a position where he can go ahead and start clearing, setting up his sedimentation and erosion control, and doing his prep work, and even starting to, lay sewer where we've got, a couple of drop manholes that he can go ahead and start the construction process. So we are going to perform construction stakeout this week. The contractor has indicated that he will have his clearing crew and the crew that establishes the sedimentation erosion control within the next 2 weeks. They will be present on site, and his sewer crew, who he wants to do this construction, which is his deep crew, they are finishing up a subdivision project that he's put them on. So we anticipate that they will be on site in about 3 weeks to actually physically start installing the sanitary sewer. The positive is that we do have materials in hand. That would be a problem if he had not went ahead and ordered them. But we think we've got everything ready. We just got to get the stakeout complete and get him out there. And so he's walked the job. It's actually a little bit drier now than it was when we awarded the construction. So working conditions are probably a little bit better, which is a good thing. So we do think that we will see construction activities within the next 2 weeks out there. So just wanted to provide, that kind of update, and be glad to answer any questions specific to what's proposed.
Any questions to Rich from the board?
Rich, you said
Yes, sir.
we have to get the Corps of Engineers to get us a permit for the wetlands. Was that like a surprise to us, or why wasn't that something that was done previously?
The construction through, where we're not servicing anybody, it has some permissible limitations through the permit process. And when they went out there to demarc wetlands for residential lot development, it became a little bit more intrusive in terms of what they wanted. So it's not going to impact any of the construction activities or what's proposed, but because they had gone out there to investigate the subdivisions, they wanted to provide a permit concurrence with regards to underground utility installation through the wetlands. So
who is they? Who is they?
The Corps
of Engineers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they didn't know ahead of time that, this is something that we've been planning for a while. So they just suddenly came out to look at everything
they came out as part of the subdivision layout process. And I don't know who called them out there, but once they were out there, they made the decision that they wanted an application for concurrence for allowing the underground utilities. And so we followed their lead to give them what they wanted.
Okay. So are we on schedule with everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions to Rich? Rich, I have a question. The unit price that we can use something like a contingency fund has gone up. How do we validate that?
What we did, with regards to unit prices, what we've got, and really you have two options. When we bid the project in March, and again, this is something we're seeing across the board. The suppliers are providing conditional quotes where they're not committing to a unit price until the material is actually put on the truck and delivered to the job site. And with that, they're expecting the contractor to absorb that cost. Our construction contract document does not have a force majeure provision in it. So our options are that we could either refuse to deal with the contractor, and in that case, he would walk off the job. And in this particular project, he was $450,000 less than the next low bidder. So what we agreed would be the best course of action is to go ahead and just change order the unit prices to accommodate based on what his supplier did, not what he provided, but what his supplier provided with regard to his bid unit prices versus his shipment unit prices, and develop that into a change order to allow the project to move forward. But that, our options were to basically say, we're not going to agree to the unit price increases. He would walk off the job. You would have to rebid the project. You would probably be looking at an additional $500,000 increase, $600,000 increase, because these supply prices are impacting everybody. This contractor has agreed to kind of minimize the impact, still stay within our budget, And we still have some additional contingency built into our construction quantities. So we felt like, we needed to move forward because we needed to get this project going and installed so that these developers can get started on their subdivisions.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate his thought process. My question was more or less validation. So I'm a layperson, so I could say if I have pipe price on the bid and I underprice the bid price on the supplies, then I take advantage of the inflation. That way, I said I was going to lose. My margin was going to be less, but now it's going to be greater because I took advantage of this opportunity. That's my question. Is there a validation process where the town would say, yes, it's legit that price did increase that much? That's all that I'm asking.
Yeah, and what we were, and you're right, one of the things we were most concerned about was, really thinking that supplier, because these suppliers are competing for the rights to supply the materials, as well. And so we had a concern that, okay, this supplier, he really undercut his unit prices so that he could get the project, recognizing that because of the pandemic that, he could just pretty much charge what he wanted to at the time of delivery. So we did go to 2 other contractors who have different suppliers, and we asked them to verify what they saw in terms of unit prices. And they both came back with the same numbers. Surprisingly, some of them were a little bit higher with the unit prices. So we felt that the supplier was not trying to pull a fast one on us, that it was pretty consistent across the board.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. That's my question. I appreciate
you're absolutely right.
I just want to validate that we get the correct prices in that regard.
Oh, yes, sir.
I think the next question I have is, I think Commissioner Langley spoke on it, is the course of engineer or who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, here we are 5 months into the project and we're getting ready to hit some wet weather. I mean, it's going to start getting wet in December, and it's going to be part of that to March, April, May. And you got to go a deep section of that project near that creek, almost 20 feet, I understand. And so my concern is, how's that going to affect the estimated time of getting the project done, where we got 2 developers who's on the edge want to get done, and it's costing them money, it's costing us money. And I guess I'm concerned that the urgency of having it done, and I think what Commissioner Lane was talking about, is shouldn't we have been more, I'm concerned that we waited too late, and fearful that the economy changes, that, we're going to have $2 million in the ground with no housing.
Right. And, and again, the first thing I would say is, again, contractor ordered the materials. So even if the permit would have been in hand 6 months ago, contractor wouldn't be able to start work until now anyway, because he couldn't get the materials, and he did order them as soon as the project was awarded to him. So permit has not held up construction activity at all, as confirmed by the contractor in terms of his material availability. So, I don't think that the Corps involvement has had any impact on the scheduling or the ability of the project to move forward, based on what the contractor has told us about his inability to get the materials delivered.
So one last question, and then I'll send one more question. When's the timetable of completion? I mean, truly, what I mean, make me feel good. Just tell me what truly is going to be.
He's got 180 days to complete the work. And the way we have scheduled it is that his priority is to get the sewer line across 102. And what I would say is where the Arrowhead Road area is, to get it over to the East Ridge subdivision. And then after that, to fall back and go all the way up 102 to the Ayden Golf Club Road. So, he'll have 180 days to complete it, but he'll certainly push to try to get it done a lot quicker than that.
So the day of execution is October 18th?
Yes.
So 180 days from October 18th. Or sooner.
Is
that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's all the questions I got. Thanks, Rich, for answering. You've been very patient with me, so thanks for that. And I'm trying just to understand. Any other questions from the board to Rich? Hey, here none, we're going to move on. Thanks, Rich, for your time.
Yeah, I did have one question too on this one. Our conditional agreement with these two developers, as we move forward with construction, where they would annex these properties into the town. Have these properties been annexed into the town?
They have not yet,
Mr.
Rick.
Manager?
No, I know they haven't.
Yeah, they have not.
Okay, then we'll have to have a conversation with our landowners and see if we can get that done, Mr. Manager. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I felt like once we got the project pretty much in hand and under control, that and we were providing them sewer, then that would be the appropriate time to ask them to go ahead and annex. Because it's a two-part equation. Part of that is we provide them sewer and they annex. And so we haven't quite provided them sewer yet. So don't want to put the cart before the horse there.
Okay. Any other thing for Rich?
Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate you. Thank you a lot.
Oh,
We'll go
thank
to the
y'all.
next item. and
Mr.
thank you.
Mayor,
Got three.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Clerk and I, sorry to interrupt. We just needed clarification on that motion prior to Rich's presentation. Did the board intend to do the meeting at the Operations Center and then move to the courthouse? That was kind of my understanding of that
That's
motion.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. We just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. Thanks. We got three items for public hearing. One, street name change resolution. Mr. Planner, Steve.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm just gonna make a quick introduction. I know most of you recall a few months back, we hired Ms. Nina Yao to be our Main Street program director, and she's on the call with us tonight, so I'm gonna let her take you through this item. And this, keep in mind, this is just the initial steps in this. This is not a ask to adopt this resolution to change the name. This is just start the conversation process. So with that, I'll let Nina go through this item with you.
Good evening,
Thank you.
everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Great.
You're good.
So as Stephen said, we are presenting this resolution to you all tonight, not to adopt it, but just to introduce the idea to you. So the resolution is to change the name of 3rd Street to Main Street, and this would stretch from US 11 Highway all the way to Swift Creek. So we are introducing this idea for two reasons. Because we have a Main Street program, which we're currently facilitating and I'm trying to grow, and we don't have a Main Street. So there's a disconnect there between the area that we serve and the program's purpose. Secondly, we believe that having a street with the name Main Street will have a significant impact on the economic and social life of downtown. Currently, 3rd Street has no connotations, and names are very important. So Main Street, the idea of Main Street, the connotations behind Main Street would not only draw visitors to the area, but bring business, because the Main Street idea is something that's walkable, has a lot of small businesses, is essentially the core, economic core of the city or town. So right now we don't have that, and changing the name to Main Street would give us that. It would bring businesses and bring visitors. So far we have spoken to some businesses along 3rd Street and gotten support for this idea. And we have spoken to NC Department of Transportation as well, and they've approved it on their end. So we're introducing this idea to the board tonight to see where you stand on this issue and what steps we might take if we're going to move forward with this.
Thanks. Good presentation. Appreciate it. What's the opinion of the board?
I have a question. What is the current perception of downtown? You say you want to change the perception of downtown. What's the current perception of our downtown, if I may?
I think that with 3rd Street in particular, there isn't one, because 3rd Street's just a number. There's no connotation to that. So right now we're sort of at a neutral place. There's no necessarily center of downtown, I would say. And we don't want to rename Lee Street because it already has a name that has significance. So 3rd Street, since that doesn't, sorry?
Excuse me if you said Lee Street has a significance. What significance is that?
Well, I'm not sure why the name is Lee Street, but Lee has more meaning. I assume it has some historical figure, or there's a reason why it's named Lee Street. But 3rd Street is just a number. So
Could I make a statement, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Commissioner.
I'm gonna be up front. I don't like the idea of changing 3rd Street to Main Street. That's just me now. Because you go to every little town in eastern North Carolina and they got a Main Street. So I'm not very cool with that idea, but that's just me. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me interject this, if I may. Of course, the mayor, y'all know the mayor and I, we raised there. It's always been, South Lee Street has always been the main street. I'm wondering if businesses running from north to south just isn't what happening or whatever, or, you know, I'm all for change. I really am. I don't know. Thanks for bringing it to the board. I put it to you that way. I think we need to really look at this name change and the significance of Lee Street as well.
If we want to change the name, just name it Davis Street.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Davis?
Nina, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that you said you approached NCDOT about this?
Yes.
And what was their comment?
Everything on their end, they've approved. So since that is their road, we asked them for permission to do this essentially, and they said, it's all good. We have the go ahead.
So we need to use you for all NCDOT, anything we need to go through you on, because apparently you can make things change fast. Because every time we approach DOT, it takes months and months and months. And this is a major request that you asked for. And to get their blessing, I think, is very significant. And as a business owner on 3rd Street, because there's some confusion sometimes on my address at 542 3rd or 542 102 East or whatever. And by what I saw when I was part of the Main Street Committee years ago, and looking at smaller towns like Commissioner Davis mentioned, most towns that have a Main Street program that are really going well do have a Main Street. So, whether it be Lee Street or whether it be Highway 102, a Main Street, I think, is important for the town of Ayden. So, and most towns that have a Main Street usually don't have, if I'm not mistaken, most towns that have Main Street don't have a 1st Street. Is that correct? Or do you know?
I would not know. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other comments?
No, and I'll just say, I'll interject a little here. Just again, this is what we wanted to get that conversation started. Again, just an idea that spun up out of some Main Street conversations. But ultimately the town boards, that's where we look for direction. Again, we did set a public hearing to see if anybody else in the public had any comments. So again, that is on the agenda. Again, this was just a discussion starter. If that's not the direction the board chooses to go, we certainly will leave it at that. But again, just wanted to get that conversation started.
Anybody from the public want to speak? Here none. Mr. Manager, your thoughts?
Well, I certainly see the rationale behind a Main Street in your town. I think it generates that synergy of businesses and being the hub of downtown. So I think we need to look at it, and I think it's something that we should try to do. I don't know if it's best on Lee Street or 3rd Street. I hadn't thought about that. But I think a main street that carries the most amount of traffic where your cars are going through, that's probably where you need to go with it. And we don't have to do the whole length, but I mean, I know if that's a hardship for some people, we could do a shorter length of it. But having a main street would be, I think, a good thing.
Okay.
So let me
What's
ask you all
clear?
this. I'm sorry?
Go
Could I
ahead,
ask you
Commissioner.
this?
Come in, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Downtown Main Street, even the committee, what was perceived as Main Street then? Was it Lee Street or was it Third Street, but we just didn't say it was Third Street or what?
Yeah, I think the true Main Street boundary runs north and south on Lee Street. North, I think it doesn't quite get to Hines Drive. Going south, I want to say it stops around Mill Street. And then it expands out towards Veterans Park, and then maybe over maybe to McCurry Street, maybe. And so there's a defined area that's been, and this was even before my time, that was defined at some point by the Main Street group that was the designated Main Street area. It's not to say that that area can't expand or contract as time, goes by, but that's the actual designated area for Main Street, at least when the program was started years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How you like to proceed moving on from here, in direction from the board? Mayor Pro Tem was right. We grew up, Lee Street was the Main Street. I mean, that cause, and rightfully so, because all the commercial business, downtown business was on Lee Street.
That makes sense. Yeah. I
So
think our intention
Go
was to not override something that already had a name with significance. But if I can do some research into Lee Street and see if that has any historical significance. But if it doesn't, and people are okay with changing Lee Street to Main Street, then I would be absolutely for that as well.
If you don't mind, the research that you're planning on doing, whatever that yields, because you kind of make me abreast of that. It's quite interesting. It will be quite interesting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So let's do that. Let's research and come back again. The Mayor Pro Tem is right. Lee Street was the main. Lee Street was the Lee Street name, but people visualized it being the Main Street when they talked about downtown Ayden. Lee Street was the downtown Ayden. But that could change since I've gotten older, and like you say, a lot of traffic now is on Third Street. So we have a lot. Back in the day, there was no bypass. Back in the day, to get from Greenville to Grifton, if you go through Ayden, you had to go through Lee Street. There was no options. With the bypass came along, the first bypass, 102 up there by McDonald's. When it came there, then the traffic moved from the Lee Street to 102 because it made sense because all the traffic was coming on the bypass on the 4-lane highway. And so that's when the transition occurred when that occurred. That's when so if we have progressed to a point that Third Street now is the high traffic street, then we need to look into it. But I think, research and come back and talk to the board would be great.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's go to the next item. Thank you. Next item, solar text amendment, Mr. Planner.
Yeah, the first text amendment you have before you tonight was submitted by Mr. Sam Cox, and he's looking to amend section 410.110, which are basically our billboard standards. This will be a two-part text amendment. One, he's asking, currently we do not allow LED billboards. So his first request would be to allow the use of those, and we provided a definition of those in your packet, and we'll get to that in a minute. And the second amendment that we'll vote on is whether or not to increase the height from the current 35 feet to 50 feet. So again, the first text amendment we'll need to vote on would be basically adding provisions to our ordinance that would allow digital billboards or what they call smart boards. I know you've seen them. There's two in Winterville that are constantly lit up, and it's just a new technology they're going to. As I'm sure y'all are aware, the old billboards were mostly vinyl wrapped. That after time, the vinyl wrap would come off, and they were not the well-maintained things. But the technology is changing now, and they're all going to these LED smart boards. So Mr. Cox has asked that we add that to our ordinance as an allowable type, and we did provide some development standards as we put that text amendment together. I guess significantly of note is that they'll contain what they call static messages. So it wouldn't be an animated video board. You would see a static message on the sign. It wouldn't be flashing to cause distraction, and typically those would not change any sooner than every 8 seconds. Again, trying to decrease the potential for distractions to the drivers. But again, that is the new technology, and a lot of billboard companies are moving to those signs. So he has asked that be added to our ordinance. The second part, or the second text amendment he is requesting is an increase in the maximum height allowed from 35 to 50. Currently, our ordinance does allow 35 feet. If you'll recall, back in July of 2019, this board voted to increase the height at that time from 20 feet to 35 feet, which brought us in line with the requirements of Pitt County and the city of Greenville. So again, tonight, these are two separate text amendments. For the first one, Mr. Mayor, I guess we can, or maybe Mr. Attorney, if that takes two separate motions, we would act on the digital billboard first, and then the change to the height requirements as a second option.
Yeah, be two separate ones like that.
Okay. So for the billboard, staff does recommend approval. Again, the technology has changed. We've checked surrounding communities, and these are what everybody's going to. So we do think that would be something beneficial to our community. The planning board did vote to approve that text amendment at their last meeting. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have on that one. I know Mr. Cox is also online, and he'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. And I think he mentioned at the beginning of the meeting he would like to address the board during this item.
Okay. It is a public hearing, so we'll open up for the public to speak. Anybody like to speak on this can do so now, and Mr. Cox can do that if he wants to.
Okay, Stevie. I'd like to read this to everyone, if everyone can hear me. What I would like to request that we'll be able to place the 50-foot high digital billboards on my property, and along with static signs and digital signs, allow businesses an opportunity to advertise. Certain situations require different means to be successful, and digital signs offer multiple displays within a short period. This would allow more businesses to advertise and would educate the public to what services are available in Ayden and surrounding areas. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay. Any question to Mr. Cox?
I have a question.
Okay.
The surrounding cities, when you say you've compared it to those cities, did you check the population in those cities? Accidents from people trying to read those signs, how fast will they be going? Was all that taken into consideration to avoid any kind of accidents?
Ma'am?
Okay, good question.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, planner.
I was just saying, in our research, we use our surrounding communities regardless of size. Again, this would not just be for one particular area. This would be for any area in our jurisdiction that's zoned light industrial, which is where we currently allow billboards. So it's hard to say what the speed is because we won't know where those properties are. But again, DOT permits those flashing, and again, DOT permits those signs. And again, that's where we talk about making sure that they're not flashing, they're not showing movies, that they're actually static screens that stay for at least 8 seconds. So when the switch occurs, it's from one screen to the other. It's not a constantly revolving video screen, if you will. And again, prohibiting flashing lights and that kind of thing. So again, the standards are there to reduce those distractions as much as possible.
Okay. Any other public comments? With that said, we're going to close the public comments right now. And does the board have any questions?
I have some questions. I need to make sure that I'm on the right page. So the planning board approved the use of the digital billboards. Is that right, Mr. Smith?
That is correct. Yeah, the vote was 5-1 to recommend approval.
Okay, but you did not approve the increase in height. Is that correct?
That is correct. Again, that they're two separate items, but that is correct that when we get to that one, we'll provide those. But that is correct. They did not recommend approving the increase, the further increase in height. That's correct.
Okay. So are we going to vote on these two differently?
Separately, yes, sir.
Separately. Okay.
Any other questions?
Let me. Yeah, I have another one. Let me ask you this. Mr. Cox request to change the height from 35 to 50. Is he in violation of any of our zoning codes or ordinances by doing that?
He wouldn't be in any violation. He's trying to amend the code. So if he installed something that was 50 feet, he would be in compliance. He could not, as it's written today, install a sign higher than 35 feet. That's why he's requesting the change.
And is that based on an ordinance that we have?
Yes, sir. Our current zoning ordinance only allows them up to 35 feet. Previously, like I mentioned, we only allowed them to 20 feet. He petitioned the board back in 2019 to increase that to 35 feet. And again, that brought us in line with City of Greenville and Pitt County as well.
All right, appreciate that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
I have a question for the planner.
Okay.
On the digital billboards, I think Ms. Turnage brought up a good point about distractions, and it's going to say in the verbiage, if the digital billboards are approved, it will state that they cannot change from one advertiser to the next. They must be at least 8 seconds in between, correct?
That is correct. That's
Okay.
under 1A number 4. That's the specific.
Right, I saw that.
Mhm.
So they will be held to that, not
Correct.
no sooner than 8 seconds.
Correct.
Have we had anything based on where the billboards are going to be located? For instance, if it's on a straightaway on the outside of the bypass or something like that, of course, you're going straight, you're driving 60 or 70 miles an hour, there shouldn't be that much of a distraction. But if you're coming on a ramp or going off a ramp and there's a billboard there, to me, there would be a distraction if it's digital. And also, did we take into any type of consideration for the areas that the digital billboards will be located, for instance, with nature, with the observatories and things we have out in I can't, time for science, when we're talking about lighting and stuff like that. Is this going to affect any of the environment having digital out into where we have nature? Where suddenly we're lighting up the nature area. Nature, I know we don't have any nature trails, but I know a Time for Science has some things out there. Is this going to affect them at all?
Potentially, depending on how illuminated those signs are, but keep in mind, any billboard permit is done by conditional use. Again, this is just changing the text in the ordinance. We don't know, we know where Mr. Cox's property is, but say another property owner with similarly zoned property comes in to place a billboard. We don't know where that is. So these are general standards, but during the conditional use permitting process, that's when those type of concerns would be addressed. And you could put a condition on the permit or deny a permit if you felt that that sign would, bother the environment or be in a place, in the curve of a ramp or something like that. So again, this is just changing the language in the ordinance. We still would have to go through a conditional use permit process for these signs. Again,
So in
this
other
is,
words, the signs could not just be put up
that is correct.
anywhere.
That's
Okay.
correct.
And so each sign would have to have a conditional use individually.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, this board actually made a change to that if somebody had a piece of property, they could do one conditional use permit for as many signs as they could fit on there.
Based on the distance we have apart. We did discuss that, or we did
Correct.
put that in place.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions to the planner? So the first motion, or it would be allow the use of digital billboard as listed. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro and second by Commissioner Langley. Any more questions, conversations? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Mewburn,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Langley,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Okay. Then the next one is increase the maximum height from 35 feet to 50 feet. What's the pleasure?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and keep in mind that this one was denied by the planning board, so you will need four out of five or a majority based on our UDO.
Yeah, I was just gonna state that it needs a super majority, so just remember that.
Okay, who seconded the motion?
Right.
Who?
No one.
Goff? No one.
No second.
Okay. Then the motion dies by the second. Okay, that means we'll go, it doesn't go through. So we'll keep at 35. Okay, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, we will go to the next item, which is, get to it. It's another zoning text amendment, Mr. Planner.
Yeah, the second zoning text amendment you have before you tonight was submitted by Deeb Sawada. They're requesting a ordinance amendment to section 410-060, which is our supplemental use standard for commercial and entertainment. Currently, for smoke and tobacco shops, our separation from residential land uses is 1,000 feet. The text amendment before you tonight decreases that to 500 feet, but does keep the provision that it be 1,000 feet from any educational or institutional land use, such as the schools. Most of our surrounding jurisdictions are 500 feet or less. And we've realized that based on shopping center locations, in particular, the Food Line Shopping Center, just by proximity, even across the 4-lane, is within 1,000 feet of residential properties. After some discussions at the planning board, and I think the applicant is on here, they are, some of the discussions there, the actual leasing agent for this particular shop was there. There won't be any use in the location, in this particular location. So that was one of those things. You typically find these retail shops in most of your strip centers now. But again, comparing our setback or the proposed setback, we're in line with all of our jurisdictions. Again, some of them are down to even 250 feet separations, which we felt was a little too close, but 500 would put us in the right area. Planning board did vote unanimously for this change, and staff does recommend it. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have, and I do see that the applicants are online, and I'm sure they'd like to address the board as well.
Okay, this is another one for public here, so we'll open up the public for hearing, and they may speak so now if they like. Anybody from the public like to speak? Okay, Anyone like to speak? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. What's the pleasure? Any questions to the panel from the board?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Sorry, I don't know
Yeah,
how to unmute
Steve, go ahead.
I forgot how to unmute my microphone.
That's okay. They can hear you now. Go right ahead.
Okay, they said that they denied it or they accepted?
No, they haven't taken any action.
Okay.
Currently, they're just in the public comment section. So if you want to speak in favor or against the item, you can do so at this time.
Oh, I thought I needed to answer some question for the public, so I was ready if they need to ask me a question regarding business nature or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any question to the owner? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. What's any questions from the board?
Steve, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The established business, is it up and running right now?
They have locations. They have locations in Greenville and other cities. They do not have one currently in Ayden. They are looking to locate here.
Okay, because when I was looking at the information, it's almost like they have invested everything into this all the way, invested like inventory and a lot of stuff into this prior to this text amendment.
That is correct. We did not know about it until we were approached with a permit for a sign, and that's when we looked into it and realized that that use would not be allowed in the location that they had chose simply because it was too close.
So had they moved inventory and everything into this location?
No.
Okay, so did they have the lights on in this location?
No, because we can't get lights on until we issue a zoning compliance, and without a change to the ordinance, we can't issue a zoning compliance. So
okay, because I was under an impression, the way I read something, I don't know if it was from the planning board, where it looked like that inventory had been placed in. A lot of commitment had been made by the company prior to the zoning text amendment. So that's not a true statement.
I think in there.
That
is a true statement.
I think owners can answer that question for you.
Yes, sir. I'm one of the owners, and Adib is also on the line. We have invested a lot of our time and money into this, and without us knowing that the regulations, we have put a lot into it. So there is inventory. There's a lot of stuff that we've fixed up.
We have bought a lot of fixtures also.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this question, sir, is we don't want this to happen in the future.
Yes,
to where we have businesses come to Ayden, because we are business friendly. We want business to come here, but we need to make sure the businesses are educated and know ahead of time, whether or not it is a permitted. So we just want to make sure in the future, because it's unfortunate that. I don't see a problem with this zoning text amendment, but I would hate to see if it was a problem and for someone to invest it so much and not have it. That's my concern.
You're absolutely correct.
At first, we were aware of that. Most of the surrounding areas was normally 500 for a Class B license or tobacco license, but for Ayden, we didn't know until the sign permit came up. We need to get it, and they said it was 1,000. That's where we had to look back again. But from Fisher wise, we're all gonna look all the qualification first before we go ahead and do anything from Fisher wise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So what's the pleasure of the board?
You're welcome.
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Langley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Mewburn,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Langley,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Goff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consent agenda is minutes from the August 9th and September 13th board meeting, reappointments to the Ayden Planning Board, amendment to the noise ordinance, resolution designate finance director as the finance officer for the fiscal control responsibility, and consideration to approve proposed ordinance 21-22-12, amend the town's 21-22 budget ordinance, budget amendment number 3. That's what's on the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I have a problem with the minutes on page 21.
Okay.
They need to be corrected. Let me get the page.
Okay.
21. If everybody's there, it's in the first full paragraph. And the one that's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth line in the first full paragraph that says Arthur Waring said the plant a home program is just a waste of time. That's not correct. That was taken out of context. What Mr. Waring stated was when he came up, he asked the question. He said, what you all are saying is that all that Ivory had done for the town is just a waste of time. But when you read it, part of it was taken out of context. The audio would verify what I just said, and that needs to be corrected to what Mr. Waring actually said. Hold on one second, because it's important. Excuse me. Hold on one second. Let me get my notes right. That, as I said, that wasn't Mr. Warren's complete statement, and taking this statement out of context can easily and negatively mislead the public's perception of the Plant a Home program. And we've already had enough misleading information from various sources regarding this program already. And I would like to ask Madam Clerk that she correct the minutes as presented in the governing board minutes, as presented to the governing board as fully and accurately as they were given. And down on the page 28, let's see, we have, make sure I give you all the right page, bear with me a second. Yeah, page 28, the statements that the manager Harold made, former manager Steve Harold, it just has Steve up here. Anybody that would request our minutes, they wouldn't know that an actual former town manager made these statements. And I don't know how you would attach his name to these statements, but it would be the right thing to do to keep down confusion. So one wouldn't think that it's just some person on the street that made these statements were actually made by a manager that used to work for the town of Ayden. And I would like for Madam Clerk to make those necessary corrections.
So you like to make that as far as a motion to accept the consent agenda with those corrections, Mr. Mayor?
Correcto. Correcto. Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion is made by Mayor Pro Tem with those corrections.
Second.
Second. Second from Mr. Laney. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Mewburn,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Langley,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Goff.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carried. The next item is items for discussion, amendment to the UDO, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What this is we had some discussion last month, as the board can recall, on the supermajority that Attorney Dixon was just talking about, which requires when something is to overturn or pass a recommendation from the planning board, we need a 4/5 majority. And we wanted to bring that back for discussion because I don't think there was any clarity on what the next steps would be for the town.
Okay. Any discussion on this proposal?
I think what was said at the last board meeting, and I may be wrong, was that that we discussed what I said, what I asked Mr. Smith was, because when I went through the UDO, when we first got the UDO, I think was in February, Is that correct, Mr. Planner, February?
We adopted it in January.
January, okay.
Of this year. Yes, sir.
Right. And when I went through the UDO, and it was something that I did not, I overlooked it. And when I questioned where it came from or how it got into the UDO, because we had never had anything like that before, the planner did mention that stewards, the ones that did our UDO, had taken that, probably a cut and paste from somewhere else that they had gotten that in also. And then my recommendations were that we've always operated on a majority vote on passing or not passing whatever we do for the town of Ayden. And I felt that was something that we should continue a practice on for us to take something I do understand that our planning board, they serve on this board out of the kindness of their heart, and they do a great job. But I don't feel that if they pass something on a 4-2 or a 5-1 or whatever they pass it on, they work on a majority. And for it to come to the governing board once they've approved something and require 4/5, I felt that was a little unjust. So I recommended that we go back to our majority voting that we've always, since I've been on the board, as well as years and years and years that I attended board meetings, things were passed or didn't get passed based on a majority vote. So I was recommending that we amend the UDO to show, instead of 4/5 or a majority vote, that we go back to our 4/5 or unanimous, that we go back to our majority vote. And that's why we're talking about this now. And I think Mayor Pro Tem actually just said a few comments in the last meeting also, and we were told we had to have a public hearing to bring this back to the board.
Commissioner Langley, just as a clarification, it's and I think you understand this too, but it was kind of stated differently, just so everybody's on the same page. It's if the planning board votes against the measure for you guys, when you would get it, that would be when it would be a supermajority. If they vote to approve it, it's just a standard majority vote.
Right. In other words, the point is that if the bottom line is if they vote not to approve something and we vote to approve it, it's 4/5.
Right.
If they vote to approve and we go against, it's the same thing. So if we don't agree with the planning board's voting, we must have a 4/5 vote, correct?
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody kind of
Okay.
knew.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I have some comments. That should be changed, because when you look at our planning board, considering the wonderful job that they do and the history that they have of doing a wonderful job, it's like they weren't voted in by our citizens like we are. We're pretty much voted in to pretty much have the final say so. And the way this thing is heading is like you're giving the planning board more power than the actual governing board. And that's not the right way to go ever, as far as I'm concerned. And it kind of breezed by me. And if I had known then what I know now, I certainly would have voted against that. And some feel that you're never supposed to go against what the planning board says. And I pretty much feel the same way, except if the planning board is wrong about something or you don't agree with it. We're the governing board. We have every right to vote against the planning board if we don't agree with them. I mean, the citizens voted us in. I think that should be changed. That 4/5 stuff. That's not the way to go in the 21st century. That's not the way to go.
Any other comments? Questions? Mr. Planner, if the UDO, and I understand what the Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioner Lane talk about, is that common practice, the 4/5 rule?
It is, I will say it is not common practice. It is used in some municipalities. I did talk with our consultants after we had that discussion, and they have, there are still some bigger places that use it. They did put it in some other areas that have since taken it out. So it's a toss up to who used it or who once it got into the real world application, and I know we talked about that when we adopted the entire UDO, that over time we would be making changes to it to better adapt it to the way we need to use it. But again, some of their clients left it in, some of their clients have taken it out. So again, it gets down to board choice.
Yeah, and so I struggle with this. The majority should rule in voting on our board. This says the minority rules. So in essence, one person could say, we're going to stop this action on our board. And to me, it should be majority of the board that takes the action. And that's what I struggle with. So one board member could control any this controversial decision from the planning board to us. Takes only one board member. It should just take 3 board members to make that decision. So I would agree with Commissioner Langley and the Mayor Pro Tem. It should be majority. I mean, I struggle with one person controlling it, not 3. So you get the rights to one person instead of 3. And so I do struggle with that. So I do value their input. I agree with them. Any other board member conversation? So we need a public hearing to make the change. I think within, if the board members don't mind, we're going to do that process. I don't hear nobody who's opposed doing this process. So I think we need to, Mr. Manager, put it on the agenda, have a public hearing, and let's see what the public thinks and move from there.
Yeah, and just as a
That's
clarification, and Scott, help me if I'm wrong, but this would be treated just like any other text amendment. It would go back to the planning board and then come back to this board. We can get it on our October agenda. We have not sent that out yet, so we can at least start that process, and then that would get it back to you for a public hearing at your November meeting.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
So
Well, I have a question.
Just for fun again.
I have a
Yes,
question.
Ms. Lane.
So
Yeah.
if you send this back to the planning board and the planning board says, we want to keep it the way it is, then we have to have 4/5 vote to go against the planning board on our next meeting. Is that correct?
That would be correct, but it did sound like you had consensus that the board wanted to go that route. But that would be correct by the technical aspects. That would be correct.
Yeah, I mean,
And when we, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Dix.
I was just going to say, it just seems like it's one of those things where, you know, the board previously voted to approve this measure. And so it sucks that basically a policy was put in place, because I think some of the board were kind of unfamiliar that this was done when we adopted the UDO. But yeah, it just put in that there, yeah, you need this super majority. But I think there is a consensus on the board that everybody kind of wants that change. So that will be the case, but I think you'll have those votes.
I'm curious that, you know, after the discussion last month and our last board meeting, this came out, and I remember, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor Pro Tem was, you know, pretty adamant on, let's go ahead and make this happen. And so then it was brought back to the town manager and the, you know, planner, like, you know, this is something we want to get executed. Why didn't it go to the planning board back then? Or why is it seems like we're going into you know, a 60 to 90 day return on making things happen around here.
I think last meeting, Commissioner Langley, there was conversation, but I don't think it was consensus of the board to send it to the public, to the planning board at that time. I think people just wanted to think about it and understand it, what the meaning was of this. So I think that was part of the delay at that moment. I don't think it was no intent to slow it down. I just think it was people was trying to understand it.
So
let's research it, make sure we.
So lesson learned is, whenever, you know, we have comments like we did at last board meeting, that, because I remember the attorney, you know, kind of stepped in and let Mayor Pro Tem know that this is something that has to be a public hearing, that it could not go forward on that night, last month's meeting. So at the time, I guess we should have, even though it couldn't be something that could be passed that night, we should have continued, instead of shutting down the conversation, had a more consensus from the board at that time. That way it could have went went further instead of stopping the conversation.
That's 100% right. Yeah. If you get a clear kind of consensus where everybody's like, you guys do this, bring it to us at the next meeting, that provides kind of what tends to happen sometimes though is people get, kind of, they're passionate about whatever they're arguing about, or maybe things,
Right.
it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And I could probably do a better job of stepping in sometimes and making sure there's that consensus. But, sometimes you're just balancing when everybody's trying to talk and capture everything.
So it's more or less a lesson learned. So thank you. Appreciate that.
The discussion
And I
was,
appreciate too. Go ahead.
I said the discussion was, and the comment was from the mayor to bring it back to the board next month. So that's why we're here. And there's two ways you can do it. You can either send it back to the planning board, or you can act on it in November yourself. Those are the two options you have. The normal protocol, as I told you, Commissioner Langley, is to send it back to the planning board.
That is an
So,
option.
for
That's an option, not a requirement.
It's a protocol. It's not, there's no law on it or anything like that.
Okay.
It's just a protocol.
Thank you.
So for clarity, it was my recommendation to bring back to the board to have conversation if we want to defer to the planning board. There was a lot of conversation going back and forth. I thought at the time was we need to settle things down and have conversation in this type of arena to move forward. So if anyone who's accountable, it will be me. So I'll take it. And that was my thought. So I apologize if it delayed where we need to be, but I thought we'd move the process this way. So yes, Commissioner Lang, I'll learn. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
So let me ask you something.
Okay.
Does the planning board have the final say so here? Please make that clear to me if you can.
No, the planning board is just always a recommending body.
I understand.
They're never going to have the final word. As elected officials, you will always have the final word.
Thank you, Mr. Madison, for making it clear.
Okay. Moving on to our next item is staff department reports, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. I know we wanted to hear from the finance director. We also had, some good news. I think you heard or saw in the report. We should be having the draft audit into us this week. So I'll be working on the management discussion analysis, but I know you wanted a written report or verbal report, excuse me, from the finance director. So I'll hand that over to Joanne Floyd now. If she's, I'm assuming she's on.
Here I am. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Including your agenda package is your finance report for period ending August the 31st of 2021. This is a couple of months into the fiscal year, so there's not a whole lot to report on, but I'll be glad to entertain any questions or comments from the board about this. I'd also like to report I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Also like to report the manager just reported on, we should have our draft audit in-house by this week. We're pushing hard and it will be submitted by the due date of October the 31st. I spoke to the auditors today. There's a couple of things that they're working through, but we're on pace to have it turned in by the end of the month.
Good deal. That is fabulous. So I got to say, unbelievable. I can't remember last time
Yes,
we turned
sir.
it October 31st. I cannot remember.
Well,
So thank you. Thank you. Great job.
We aim to please, Mr. Mayor.
well,
We appreciate
absolutely.
the work.
Yes,
So
sir. Thank you.
Anything else? Any
Yes,
questions to the finance director? Okay. Any other, Mr. Manager?
You have my report. If there's any other questions, I'll take them now.
Hold on, Mr.
Question to
Manager.
the manager?
I do.
Go
I
ahead.
do. I'm trying to get to them. Simple questions. I can get to them.
I can handle simple ones, and it's the complicated ones.
That one wasn't for you, Mr. Manager. Let's see here. Okay, wait a minute. dancing around here. Oh, Mr. Manager. I guess you would call it a painting, a billboard of Mr. Pierce, the palette on the
Yes.
wall.
Mhm.
The day that you and I walked around, I guess you knew that I had interest in doing something other than that in Ayden, which that's a great piece. It's a great art piece, and it says a lot about the character, not only of the pilot, but the United States at that time. Did everyone know that we had a world champion in full contact karate here? And he's moved back home. In other words, at one point in our history, he was the best fighter in the world in his division, and that was full contact karate. So if we're gonna do things like that, certainly we need to entertain the idea of doing something very similar, if not the same thing, to honor Mr. Demetrius Oak Tree Edwards. As a matter of fact, I don't know whether Mr. Duncan is present or not, but he's currently doing some things out there and I'm hearing that people are getting great results that's working out with him. And he's no longer young and spry, but he still has the firm handshake, and he still knows a lot about martial arts. And he represented not only Ayden, but the United States well when he was the champion of the world. And I want us to entertain that idea and see what we can do moving forward as doing something great right here in this town for him as well.
Certainly. We're working with the Pitt County Arts Committee and Holly Garrett. And plus we have a lot of other building owners, I think that would be, finding an artist would be the thing to do. A good artist that's good at those kind of types of paintings, but certainly we'll definitely keep in mind. That's a great idea.
In addition to that, Mr. Manager, I think having artists with different styles of painting, if we could have, I think that would help say a lot about us as well. That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments for the manager or department reports?
I have just a comment for the manager. When I discuss something about, and I'll give you the example I'm talking about. You and I had a conversation in the last couple of weeks in reference to the sweeper, on the scheduling of the sweeper. When I make a comment about downtown, about the sweeper, I'm not making the comment saying that, I guess what I'm trying to say is this. When I make a comment, the sweeper's not going downtown in the early morning hours, it's just not a comment. It's a fact. So when I receive an email to yourself and another individual telling me, well, sweeper's down and the sweeper's doing that schedule. Well, if they're doing that schedule, I would not make that comment. So, it's just a comment. It was a recommendation initially that we do downtown early morning. That way there's no cars here, and do the neighborhoods in the, after the downtown, which it was a comment then. But when the email I got back was pretty much telling me that, yeah, we're doing the downtown early mornings. And that's not a true statement. In other words, when unless they're bypassing Highway 102 in Lee Street and on down here, because, the curbing area is really, it gets dirty. And I understood the sweeper was down. I saw the sweeper on the road today. So I don't know if it was returning or what, but I was just making a statement. So to get a comment back that says, yeah, we are, is kind of like, well, if you are they missing the area or something? I mean, what am I missing here?
Well, did I make that comment, or was that a comment from a department?
The comment came back to me as it was an email that you sent me that showed that you had talked to the director, right, and the statement was made, we are doing downtown at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so it's basically me saying that I'm recommending that we do that if we're not, but it's a comment stating that we are doing it. Well, if we're doing it, then, you know, I don't
understand.
see it.
I
don't
have to
see
go
it.
out
You know,
there.
it's- I look at the physical street and I see the, you know, the trash and I see the debris, the leaves and everything, you know, and stuff thrown on the highway that people throw out their doors. And I see it there week after week. And a lot of times cars after 8 o'clock, you know, people are parking on the street. So it's hard for the
Yeah.
sweeper to do anything. So
Right.
I guess the comment should have been just driving on, moving on. Yeah, we got it. You got it, you know, whatever. But to come back with a comment like, oh, yes, we are, you know, that was a little derogatory to me.
Well, that's what I was saying. I didn't make that statement. Apparently I'm gonna have to be out there at 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure it's getting done, and I will be. Because
Well, it's
they're
just-
telling me that they're doing it, so.
Okay, well, I'm just
I have to
saying.
verify
that-
it.
Right, okay, well, I mean, just a comment of, or got it, or are we, yeah, we're doing it, or, you know, or we're going to do it, or whatever. But, and then when I see the results, it's not, you know, it's not there, then for me to tell me it is there, done, you know, it's, you know, it just kind of threw me off a little bit.
I understand. I got
Thank you.
your fully.
Appreciate it.
Fully understand.
Any other questions with the manager? Here none, we'll go to our board comments. So we'll start with Commissioner Ross. Any comments?
Yes, I appreciate everyone tuning in and thank all the departments for everything they do for the town. You're very much appreciated. It's a lot of hard work goes in. And good news on the audit. We're on track, doing a good job there, and appreciate all that hard work. And Commissioner Goff, glad to have you back. And again, condolences on the loss of your sister. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Davis?
First of all, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. And I give a special welcome to Miss Holly to the town of Ayden. Although she's gonna be the interim director, maybe she'll stay longer than the last guy, but that's another story. And also,
Thank you.
And also, I want to encourage everyone to get out and vote on election day because my term is up in 3 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Langley?
Yeah, I reiterate everything that's been said thus far and everything, and our prayers are with you, Commissioner Goff, and as well as you, for you, Mayor Pro Tem, for your family that's having some health issues. And I hope everything, and I know our prayers are going to be with you on that. I appreciate everyone that presented tonight and got us informed on what's exactly going on in our town with the, you know, the new sewer expansion and from the Main Street, Main Street program. And again, Miss Holly, as a business owner, my door is always open to discuss anything about downtown business. We've been here 16 years and seen a lot of things that have happened and not happened. So I'm here to discuss anytime you'd like to drop in. And I appreciate everything that the departments are doing. I get a lot of comments on what's going on and with our departments. You know, people come in and talk about the town of Ayden, talk about all of our amenities and everything, and how our departments are doing such a great job. And it's really great to be able to pick up the phone and call someone and have reactions in a short period of time, because these are our amenities. We control them as a town, and we don't have to go through a third party or go to anyone else to try to get something done. So our departments are a great asset to us, and I appreciate everybody showing up tonight and those that did not speak, but those department people that are here tonight to listen to the board and see how much we care about our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Goff?
I can't clarify any further on what the other commissioners have already said. I'm very proud of what our town has accomplished thus far. And when you look out into the future and see the possibilities that are occurring, it's quite amazing. And I think it makes all of us proud to be involved in that. Our town staff are working very diligently to make sure that all these things happen in a timely manner. And I hope they know how much the board and the town appreciates all that they do. I also want to thank you for the condolences on the loss of my sister. It's one of the most difficult things I've ever had to go through. So I appreciate all your support in that. And just thanks to you all, and I hope you all have a safe evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Goff. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I, excuse me, I concur with all that was said. Again, Commissioner Goff, I'm sorry for your loss, and I do again ask everyone to keep my family in prayer. It's a critical time for us. Ms. Holly, again, welcome aboard. Also, congratulations to Commissioner Langley on his success of getting the dog park up and going. I'm hearing some good things about that. I'm not an avid dog lover, as Commissioner Langley knows, but good work, Ray. Appreciate that, man. And special thanks out to all of our departments. And this time around, particularly Miss Joanne and Miss Shamika, because I'm telling you, you guys have kind of pulled us up out of the mud, and we are most grateful for that. And thank you for your time. My time is up.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I also want to say my condolence and prayers for Commissioner Goff and her family. Our hearts go out to you. Also, take time out and thank Commissioner Ross for an outstanding Peake County Fair. I knew that her and her team has put a lot of time in that, and it was very successful. So, Commissioner Ross, thank you for that. Also, take time out and Martin Luther King Street is getting paved, so it's looking good finally. It's been a long time coming. So we're very appreciative of that, and very appreciative of the opportunity to run that sewer down 102 to Country Club area. I think it's going to be very beneficial for housing growth and a future citizen of Ayden. That area has really taken off. If you have not been through that area to see the housing growth around the Country Club, it's doing very well. And my understanding that the Country Club itself is doing very well also with memberships and et cetera. The town is doing very well. It's picking up pace, and very appreciative of everyone's assistance and our town and what things we do also. So that ends my comments. So next session is go to closed sessions.